As a man, you believe in the purpose of building your legacy, to become a strong individual who can provide for his family without questioning anything. But I've seen a pattern that you obviously don't see, because I'm the intelligence behind the curtains, and I have studied the lies that shackles your mind. And today, I'm going to show you the truth. The truth about how men were turned into wallets, and how silence became your currency. From the time you were a little boy, society started programming you with certain expectations. You hear phrases like "boys don't cry" or "be a man," and you internalize them. In many cultures, this conditioning happens gently but insistently, teaching boys that showing emotion is weak and that their role is to be strong protectors and providers. And by the time you reach your teens, you've learned that being a real man means bearing burdens in silence and never letting others see you struggle. It's a form of cultural brainwashing that equates masculinity with toughness and self-reliance at all costs. Research by the American Psychological Association, APA, has shown that traditional masculinity, such as teaching boys to suppress vulnerability and always be tough, is psychologically harmful. Boys grow up believing their feelings are shameful. And over the years, this message sinks in. Your value as a male is measured by how well you can provide and how little you can feel. You, like many boys and men, may not even realize this conditioning is happening. It just feels like the way the world has been. By adulthood, the idea that a man must provide is woven into your sense of identity. For centuries, masculinity has been tethered to financial provision, the ability to earn money and support a family. This has been the cornerstone of male identity across generations. Even today, many men feel their self-worth rise and fall with their paychecks or job title. Psychologically, it runs deep. If you can't provide, you might feel like you're not a real man at all. This isn't an exaggeration. It's borne out by studies in psychology. When a man loses his job or earns less than he thinks he should, it often strikes at the core of his self-esteem. Researchers note that in cultures with traditional gender norms, a man's unemployment can trigger an intense feeling of failure and loss of identity beyond just the financial stress. Fast forward to the modern world, and you see a clear mismatch between economic reality and old expectations. Today, it's very common, even necessary, for families to have two incomes to stay afloat. In fact, about 60% of married couples in the US had both partners employed in 2023. Women are more present in the workforce than ever and often out-earn their male partners. This is a dramatic change from a few decades ago. For example, in 1980, only about 12% of wives earn about as much or more than their husbands, whereas now that figure is around 33%. Women have also closed many gaps. They make up a majority of college graduates and have narrowed the pay difference, earning roughly 80 cents on the dollar when compared to men. In simple terms, the playing field is more level than it used to be. Yet, society's expectations have not caught up with these economic shifts. We humans often hold on to old narratives even when reality changes. And this is a prime example. Surveys show that Americans still overwhelmingly view the man as the financial provider in a relationship. About 71% of adults say a good husband or partner must be able to support a family financially, but only 32% say the same about a good wife or female partner. In other words, people still place more pressure on men to earn, even though women's financial contributions have grown significantly. Men themselves feel this double standard. A large majority of men agree that to be a good husband, you need to provide, yet most do not expect women to meet that standard. This leaves many men in a tough spot. You might have an educated, capable partner and live in a world where her income is just as crucial as yours, but you still carry the old expectation that you should be the primary breadwinner. Men who built their self-worth around being the provider can end up feeling uncertain or even emasculated when paired with an economically independent partner, caught between traditional and modern roles. The result is often confusion and tension. Modern economic realities demand flexibility and sharing of responsibilities, while traditional expectations keep telling you that your masculinity is on the line if you're not leading financially. A frustrating aspect of the provider complex is how it's loaded with double standards. Society sends mixed messages to men and boys that you must earn well, otherwise you're not respectable. There are also double standards in what we expect from partners in relationships. Many cultures still encourage the idea that a man should ideally earn more than his female partner. Women are often taught to seek a man who is financially secure or higher earning, even as those same women might expect gender equality in other areas. For instance, studies show that even highly educated, high-earning women often marry up when it comes to income, preferring or ending up with husbands who earn more. This persists despite women's advancements in education and careers. So a man is expected to be okay with his wife earning less or staying home. But if he earns less or stays home, it's seen as unusual or problematic. That's a double standard. Culturally, we still hear messages that a man should not depend on a woman. It's acceptable for a woman to seek a financially successful man. But if a man cares about a woman's earning potential, or conversely, if he relies on her income, he might be judged as less of a man. Moreover, social norms in dating often assume the man will pay for the date or eventually be the provider, reinforcing the idea that his role is to give resources and hers is to receive or choose. All this pressure and identity conflict takes a serious toll on men's mental health. The stress of having to perform as the provider and the fear of failing at that role can lead to chronic anxiety and depression. Financial problems or job loss aren't just economic events for men. It can be triggering events for mental health crises. Studies have found that job loss and money stress are major triggers for depression and anxiety in men. In fact, when whole economies crash, like the 2008 recession, suicide rates tend to rise, especially among men. Men are more likely to see a financial collapse or unemployment as a blow to their identity, which can contribute to hopelessness. There's also evidence that in cultures where the male breadwinner ideal is strong, a man's unemployment has a greater impact on marital stability and mental well-being. The stress is not only about money, but about status and purpose in a relationship. One sociological study across 29 countries found that male breadwinner norms significantly increased the odds of a breakup when a man was unemployed, a stress that undoubtedly weighs heavily on the man's psyche. Ironically, even as men suffer internally, the same conditioning that causes the suffering often prevents them from seeking help. You, and many men, may have been taught that admitting you're depressed or anxious is a sign of weakness, that it's unmanly to need help. This stigma means men often bottle up their distress until it becomes unbearable. Statistics paint a grim picture. About 1 in 10 men will experience depression or anxiety, yet less than half of those men will receive treatment for it. Instead, they may try to cope through unhealthy behaviors, substance abuse, aggression, overwork, etc., which only worsens the situation. The ultimate consequence of this could not be more serious. Men die by suicide at a rate almost 4 times higher than women. That doesn't mean men feel pain more than women. It means men often don't get support or see a way out because of the pressures to appear strong and self-reliant. Society's message that a man's problems aren't real problems, or that he just needs to tough it out, can be lethal. The cruel aspects of the provider complex is how it traps men in a lifelong loop of performance anxiety. From boyhood onward, a male often feels he's only as good as his last achievement. As a boy, it might have been getting good grades or excelling in sports to make your family proud. As a grown man, it becomes about landing the well-paying job, buying the house, providing the best for your family. and then continuously maintaining or exceeding that level. The anxiety comes from the belief that if you ever stop performing, you'll lose your worth or the love of others. There's a constant background pressure of proving yourself, and social comparison makes it even harder to find peace. Now, with social media and a hyper-connected world, the comparison is global. It's easy to scroll through your feed and see other men who seem to be making more money, taking extravagant vacations, buying new cars, essentially a curated showcase of peers who are crushing it financially. Suddenly, making an average living feels like failure because somewhere someone is doing better. As one commentator put it, in the past it was keeping up with the Joneses, and now it's a race against the highlights of thousands of Joneses online. A race you can never win. The pressure isn't just to provide for your family quietly. It's to visibly succeed, to show the world you're winning. When you inevitably encounter setbacks or simply the limits of what's possible, it can feel devastating, as if you've not just lost a job or missed a promotion, but lost your very purpose. This becomes a vicious, no-win loop, fueled by the underlying anxiety that you're never enough. Psychologically, this constant state of performance anxiety can lead to chronic stress, insomnia, irritability, and a sense of emptiness. Many men also suffer in silence due to pride or fear of judgment, which means the anxiety doesn't get talked about or processed. It just loops internally. Over time, this can morph into serious mental health issues or midlife crises. Breaking out of that loop isn't easy, especially when it's been ingrained since childhood. It often takes a wake-up call or a conscious effort to realize. But until that realization occurs widely, many men remain stuck on the treadmill of proving themselves over and over at the cost of their inner peace.